The Bay STEM Global Competitiveness Conference and Northrop Grumman Corporation presents Young, Gifted, and Black, a professional development seminar featuring Sector Vice President of Enterprise Services and Chief Information Officer Daniel Scott, Systems Engineer, Mission Systems Sector DESHAWN Brown, Cyber Systems Engineer, Aeronautics Sector FARAI CHIDEMBO, Materials Process Engineer, Mission Systems Sector Dr. Monique Farrell, Systems Engineer, Mission Systems Sector Vincent Poteea, and Mechanical Engineer, Aeronautics Systems Sam Williams. Innovative excellence aptly describes Northrop Grumman's technical talent. Their experience, skills, cultural background, natural curiosity, and willingness to always learn more makes Northrop Grumman the industry leader it is today. These participants in this signature seminar will tell about their aspirations, journeys, and achievements as they have made a place for themselves in their respective fields. Their stories are deeply woven into their community and organization involvement. They seek to inspire the next generation of engineers and other STEM talent. Without further ado, the Bay STEM Global Competitiveness Conference and Northrop Grumman Corporation presents Young, Gifted, and Black, featuring Daniel Scott, DESHAWN Brown, FARAI CHIDEMBO, Dr. Monique Farrell, Vincent Poteea, and Sam Williams.
Welcome, everybody. Good afternoon, and welcome to Northrop Grumman Young, Gifted, and Black seminar today. We appreciate you taking the time to join us today and making this a more rich experience. I think that part of the collaboration that we have at Northrop Grumman includes engaging folks of different levels of experience across the company, different disciplines, different locations. And we don't always get a chance to come together and share that. And so this is an opportunity wherein we try to capture that richness and share it with all of you outside the company as well as inside the company. So just a show of hands, how many Northrop Grumman employees do we have in the room today? All right, looks like 50%. Okay, interesting, very good. My name is Dan Scott. I'm a proud member of the Northrop Grumman team. I'm also Sector Vice President for Enterprise Services for our Defense Systems Sector. Been with the company for about 34 years and have seen a lot, experienced a lot, contributed to the environment and watched the company grow. And I'm very, very excited about the panel that we have here today and the fact that they get a chance to share their experiences with you, young and somewhat seasoned. And so we're looking forward to that. I enjoy these seminars, especially in the Bay space, because I think in particular, we get a chance to engage with other companies, other industries, people of color, diversity, and that's something that's appreciated at Northrop Grumman. And this is something that I think you'll get a sense of as we go forward here. But we're going to learn a lot about aspirations, inspiration, perseverance, the journeys that we've experienced to get where we are today and what motivates us to not only sustain our performance and sensibility through those times that are very difficult in our career and personally, as well as what enables us to accelerate once those obstacles are removed. And so we find ourselves in different career space or life cycles. They all have peaks and valleys. I'm sure each one of you here is experiencing something like that, whether you're in a valley or a peak. As my mother used to say, live long enough and life will happen to you. But I think that all of the things that we have experienced is a profile in courage. And so I'm looking forward to not only hearing from the panel, but also from hearing from each of you as we go forward. We have about 40 minutes of engagement with the panel. And then we'll open it up to Q&A to the floor for about 30 minutes. Will be time kept, So if I kind of move us along, I'd appreciate your support in that. There is an open mic in the middle of the floor. So when we get to Q&A, if you have a question, we'd appreciate you coming in and addressing that question through the open mic. You know, innovation excellence aptly describes Northrop Grumman's technical talent, but it's our people's experience, skills, cultural background, curiosity, and willingness to learn that makes Northrop the company, I think, the leader in technology that it is today. So our panel, again, is going to share its aspirations and journeys and achievements that have put them in the place that they are today in their respective areas. But their stories are also deeply woven in community and organizational support. So you'll find an interesting balance of experience from our panel members, and they both inspire not just the next generation of STEM leaders, but their leaders in general. And we have some of their leaders here supporting them in this space too. So very, very important. I think we're in for a good discussion. We had kind of a pre-brief, ask about, you know, what's in, what's out. And they said, we're all good. Whatever you want to do is fine, right? We're all open. So I'm going to briefly introduce the panel, and then I'm going to allow them to share about themselves, and then we'll get into some questions that I think you'll find interesting. So DESHAWN Brown, systems engineer from Mission Systems. Welcome, DESHAWN. FARAI CHIDEMBO, cyber systems engineer from Aeronautics Systems. Dr. MONIQUE FARREL, microelectrical semiconductor engineer from Mission Systems. Vincent Poteet is systems engineer from Mission Systems, and Sam Williams, a mechanical engineer from Aeronautics Systems. So the first question I'd like to open to the panel is to, you know, please just share with us a little bit about yourself, some personal aspects, where you are, where you've come from, and let us get to know you a little bit better. So let's start with Sam. Come here.
Well, I am located down in St. Augustine, Florida. I've been with the company about 3 years as a mechanical engineer. I work on the E2D, Advanced Warfare Surveillance for the Navy. So shout out to all the midshipmen I see in there. A bit about me. I'm an avid martial artist. I've trained extensively in jiu-jitsu and Krav Maga, and I like to learn. And also, one of the great things about me, I just completed my doctorate in systems engineering. It's still unreal to me. I'm still sweating from the bullets that were shooting at me in my defense. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay, excellent.
My name is FARAI CHIDEMBO. I'm a cyber systems engineer in Melbourne, Florida. A little bit about myself. Turns out I also trained jiu-jitsu for doing jiu-jitsu. I learned 3 times. And I love working.
Okay.
All right, I'll go ahead and go next. My name is DESHAWN Brown. I'm from Colorado Springs, Colorado. I'm in Northrop Grumman Space Systems, primarily focused in the area of missile defense. So I do work supporting the Missile Defense Agency at the Missile Defense Integration and Operations Center in Schriever Air Force Base, Colorado. A lot of my work is focused in modeling and simulation of ground-based radar systems. And right now I'm supporting internal research efforts for next generation radar systems. A little bit about me, I love music. So anything from Pink Floyd to James Brown funk, I'm all about it.
Excellent. Monique?
Hi, Monique Farrell. I am currently at the Advanced Technology Laboratories. I'm responsible for fabrication of several layers of microelectronic devices that get funneled up into E2D Hawkeye, the Apache helicopter, and I'm responsible also for continuous improvement, employee safety, that's very dear to my heart, replacing some of the less than ideal chemicals that we're using in our fabrication processes. Something about me, I like to play tennis, and I'm very passionate about professional and academic development. I love that stuff. So resumes, send them.
My name is Vincent POTEA. I'm a systems engineer based out of San Diego. I work in the Collins business unit, doing integration and testing for F-35 C&I derivatives. Something about me is I love to cook. I love to volunteer. I think volunteering is important. Make sure we mentor our youth and make sure that they follow the steps that we followed and don't make our same mistakes.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Okay, well, looks like we have a very diverse panel. So let's talk about your current positions. I'm going to ask a couple of questions and direct them to several of the panel members. I want to talk about your current position and from where did you join Northrop Grumman. It could be right out of school or it could be some other space. Monique, let's start with you. Let's talk a little more in depth about your current position.
My current position, my manager is in the room, just to let you know. No pressure.
No pressure.
I would say it's awesome. I have a job description that is continuously evolving, and I have a lot of support from my immediate management and upper management to expand. So my primary role as an electron beam engineer, again, is to fabricate the different layers of these devices, but I also have a lot of freedom that I can pick up and spearhead different projects that I'm passionate about. And one is the employee safety and removing some of the less than ideal chemicals that we have. I'm also passionate about teaching, and I go to my management and I'm saying, hey, I think this is gonna be useful to NG as a whole, and they're very supportive. So I also teach statistical process control, correlation and regression analysis, and a couple of other different classes as it relates to Lean Six Sigma, green belt, black belt training. And I do so love it because continuous improvement is everywhere. And I think we really should embrace it. So that's something that I also like to push. Mentoring, I would say, is also a part of the job description that I've kind of added. And I like to mentor a lot of the new and upcoming green belts. Overall, my main goals is to bring e-beam lithography into the next regime in terms of delivering technologies that kind of push the boundaries of what we're capable of doing right now. And so that's kind of where we are. And they're working, most of it, anyway.
Interesting. Okay, very good. DESHAWN, how about you?
Sure. So as I said, I primarily support the Missile Defense Agency, so I work directly with the Ballistic Missile Defense System. So a lot of the work that I do is really focused on making new radar concepts that are able to advance the state of the BMDS. And the research team that I work with, we really get to explore a lot of different concepts. We say, okay, here's my crazy idea, and then we spend a couple of months evaluating that to see if it's viable. And really all the sorts of scientific things that really inspired me to be an engineer in the first place, right? We have a playground where it's okay to fail, and I think that's one of the best things, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think failure is one of the best teachers, especially in research. I think that's what's really engaging about my role, is that I'm given the opportunity to have a lot of freedom in how I approach a problem, and the solutions that I suggest actually make it onto our final production solutions, which is very exciting.
That's an interesting point. Well, failing fast and failing forward, right? So that's kind of the mantra we have at Northrop, that don't be afraid to lean forward and do the things either in research or even in a controlled environment like production. Do the things that would improve the process of the product, but make sure that areas where you may fail, you're surrounded by a team and a structure that helps to prevent any catastrophic issues that would occur, but you learn from that failure, you move forward, you apply it. Northrop has moved from, I would say, a somewhat risk-averse company many years ago to a company that leans forward at this point of the past 10 years, and it's accelerating that, so that's great. There's a combination in here of employee safety and rocket propulsion and some of the work that happens across the company, so I think there's going to be some connection that we make here a little bit later on. Monique, just stand by. Vincent, how about you? Share a little bit about your current role.
I am a systems engineer, and so I do everything from model installation, design, integration and test, verification, operations. Before I came here, I was working with Lockheed, and there I was a test engineer. I wanted to find out more about systems, heard about systems, and I had an opportunity to join Northrop as a systems engineer. And I like the breadth of knowledge that comes with it. I like not having the deep technical aspect that Steve might have, such as MONIQUE, but I like having a hand in the whole process going down the V.
Okay, excellent. There's, sometimes you can be too interested, right? When I started out as an engineer doing design, I'm an aerospace engineer by original trade, I know some years ago. The company said, hey, how'd you like to go out to Edwards Air Force Base and work on this new missile solution? I said, yeah, sure, that'd be great. And I did that. And they said, well, some of the work you have to do is down in a bunker that's 3 stories below. I said, why is that? Some safety regulations. So ended up getting down there, doing some work. It followed a lot of the modeling and sim work and systems engineering space. And we were launching missiles from platforms, large airborne platforms, which was very dangerous, right? But we got to see firsthand what the actual product solution and the yield was, and got to tie together the end product with the original design and the modeling and sim. So it's a great space to be in. But if they asked you to go down the bunker 3 stories below, just think about it. Okay, Fry, how about you? Tell us about your current position.
Okay, so my current position is very much a systems engineering position, which means you get to touch, you get involved in all of the aspects of whatever project you're working on, which is my favorite part because I'm curious about everything. And it's a perfect position to be involved in all aspects of an aircraft, for example. And then I just come in with the cyber perspective of how do we protect the data going through all our systems. So you have to kind of understand the whole system and other things that I didn't think I would, learn about. In order to protect the technology, you have to understand it. And it's been great just finding out, wow, there's so much to learn. And I get to just learn enough to work on it. So that's my favorite part.
Okay, great. And I think to your point, understanding exactly all the systems that are affected is critical. I'll share that as Northrop pursues public knowledge, ground-based strategic deterrent, which is the next generation ICBM solutions, cybersecurity is the most critical discipline and element that crosses just about every other engineering and functional discipline in that system. So understanding what the impact is, not only from a technology perspective, but from a business perspective as well, and a customer's perspective is critical. So yeah, you're touching everything. Cybersecurity has to say yes, though. You got to say yes. How do you get to yes? Okay, Sam, you? Oh, sure. Go ahead.
I'd like to add to the understanding the system portion of that. So for me, as a new engineer 2.5 years ago, there were a lot of things that I didn't understand. And some of the most successful kind of break-ins for me was when I was put on a Tiger team and nobody really understood. And so everybody was putting up every single type of factor, variable that we could think of that could then affect our system. And so for me, that really sped up my learning. So kind of moving forward, for me to identify, hey, I don't really know too much about this area. Are they having a problem? Because at that point, everyone in the room who's a key stakeholder who can contribute to solving that problem is there. And I was basically soaking up a lot of information. So if you guys see those types of opportunities, definitely go for it.
Has anybody here been on a Tiger team? Do you know what a Tiger team is? Tiger teams are groups of employees. It could be internal employees as well as consultants with disciplines that address a particular problem. It could be a technology problem, a business problem. It could be something real time, something that's airborne, satellite solutions, ground solutions, and the company needs an answer rapidly. So they pull together a Tiger team and they sequester that team and say, go solve this problem. And so it's a known unknown, right? You have to go in with the disciplines you have, the experience that you have, and try to solve something. It can be very exciting. But everybody's watching you, right, to make sure that you come up with the answer. Okay. Sam, do you want to talk a little about your your job?
Like I said before, I'm a mechanical engineer on the E2D, Advanced Hawkeye, and it's one of the few programs that Northrop Grumman owns from tail to finish. That means we design it, we build it, we test it, we ship it to the fleet. We are the aftermarket support, period. Most of the other companies, I don't like shooting anyone else in the foot, but they usually like to have subcontractors, like this person builds this person does this, and I was surprised to come onto a program where from front to end, we own it. So there's no one to go to when there's a human error in the manufacturing environment. And that's my job, is to make sure that we meet delivery based on any outcome, whether it be a supply issue, someone drops or decides to use a hammer on a composite structure. That happens all the time. And my manager's not here, so I don't have to stress. Or, just a redesigner, and this plane's been flying for, I want to say, 20 plus years. So the challenge is taking, a design or something that was designed in the 70s or 60s even, where there is no 3D model, and I have to make a 3D model on a 2D drawing. Not even that, sometimes the parts are white caster, which is just a mold of what it should look like, and take detailed drawings. So that it really stresses the detail orientation of our engineers in the field. So
That's great. And you guys have been upgrading that system for quite a while. You're at the D version now, right? And it's a domestic and an international platform. So,
more into it. We got to make space for it.
right. So it delivers electronic warfare solutions and advanced warning solutions across the world. So it's a powerful role. Okay, pretty interesting. So I have another question I have. This is for DESHAWN. What do you enjoy most about your position? I know you get to spend a lot of money. You work IRAD. You know what that means? That means you're spending margin. Right?
That's right.
So what do you enjoy most about the position that you're in?
I think the thing I enjoy most is that, not only is every day a new opportunity to learn something new, right? We're solving problems that have never been solved before, which I think is especially intriguing, right? Because there's no one to go to when something doesn't work. You need to get together with your team and say, hey, how do I need to approach this problem? You kind of put together everyone's expertise in order to try to solve something new, right?
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, all of your contributions are equally valid, right? I think that's something that's important, especially as a newer engineer, right? Mm-hmm. The idea that my skill set that I learned during my engineering education actually makes a difference when we go to try to solve a new problem, mm-hmm. right? I remember when I was getting introduced to my team, they said, oh, hey, here's DESHAWN Brown. This is our electrical engineer that does signal processing. And then I heard them say, hey, we can actually use that, right? That's just what we need. Mm-hmm. And at first I was skeptical. I was like, really? but then they started going through the program and saying, oh, here's all of our algorithm documents. And then I started seeing everything in calculus that I said, oh, I'm never going to use this, right? I'm not going to use Taylor's series and all this stuff, right? But it was right in their algorithm document. And I was like, oh, maybe my professor was right and I needed to pay more attention. Right? So really seeing everything come full circle was very enjoyable for me. And something that I try to do every day is try to find new concepts that I can apply on the job, and it's very satisfying being able to do that.
Okay, that's good. What's your perspective of the work environment in terms of how collaborative people are and receptive to your ideas or thoughts? And how important is that to the work that you do and maybe your own satisfaction in that environment?
Oh, I think collaboration plays a very big part. I can say almost daily I'll have some of the senior engineers in my group, call me and asking me questions. I was like, I've only been doing engineering for a few years, and these guys have been doing it 30, 40 years. Will come to me and say, hey, I have a signal processing question for you, right? So they definitely respect your expertise and understand that everyone has something that they can contribute to the team, right? Because I think the good thing about teams in general is that if you have a good team, then you can produce more than the sum of your parts, right? Mm-hmm. If you have a team where everyone's willing to come together, then you can get together at the end of your project and say, hey, how did we do this, right? It's very satisfying to know that you're able to produce something that no one person could have produced. And I've definitely experienced that regularly.
You've seen that, really. So Vincent, how about you in terms of collaboration in the environment? What's been your observations?
That what you said is correct, that the senior engineers would come ask me a question, like, oh, you've been doing this for so long, and I'm new here, I'm new to this system, new to this process, but they value my input, they value what I bring to the table. And so that means a lot to me, that I'm actually contributing to the bottom line, contributing to a successful system. So they don't see me as a junior engineer, they see me as a productive member who can help get this job done.
Okay. So FARAI, I have to ask you, because in my job as Chief Information Officer, I've got a number of disciplines. Information security is one of them. Typically the police of the organization, right? So talk a little bit about collaboration and what you're seeing and learning and how critical that is to success for whatever the objective is.
So my team is very small, just about 10 people responsible for a whole program, all the cyber for a whole program. So we work together like all the time, which is like, it's awesome to see like a fellow. I work with 2 fellows on my team, like NG fellows, which is really cool for me, being a young engineer early in my career, to get to collaborate with people that have all of the experience ever about cyber from when it started, before it was even a thing, and just subject matter experts on radars, on cryptography, on just unimaginable subjects that I get to work with other people that are knowledgeable.
Okay.
So there's a lot of collaboration.
There is.
We all are very close because we're always collaborating, even down to a presentation. We go through each line and someone will point out you missed a comma there or whatever, like down to everything that we do. So
Okay, that's good. Delivering cyber solutions as a product or even as a service is critical, right? As you look, go ahead.
And we only work off of a framework. It's not super defined what we do. So you kind of have like suggestions on how to apply cyber, but it can go any way. So we just keep collaborating on all the ideas of how to come to a solution.
Excellent. Okay, that's terrific. So I have a question for Sam. What influenced you to pursue a STEM degree?
Well, this goes more into about myself, my background. My grandfather flew P-51s for the Army Air Corps
Oh, wow.
in World War II. You know your history. They were the Tuskegee Airmen, which later became the United States Air Force. He was an aeronautics engineer, and during that time, they didn't want folks looking like us in those positions or even getting those degrees, and he fought and persevered and did it. And then his daughter grew up to be a hidden figure NASA particle physicist, which is my mother. Her name is Dr. Wanda Jackson, no relation to Mary Jackson. However, she did do work with the 3 original women on the space shuttle program with NASA, the satellite retrieval system, and what we affectionately call now GPS. So as you can see, I have some huge shoes to fill, and that's what kind of pushed me, but more so with my grandfather. We used to tinker with things, tear apart radios, and he didn't care if it was his favorite radio, he just wanted to take it apart, figure it out, and then I put it together and make it work better than what it did before. So then he was like, that's my guy.
Okay, all right. So you're destined not only for success but fame too, apparently, right? So,
No pressure though.
well, no pressure. Oh man, wow, that's rough. Okay, Vincent, how about you? What influenced you to pursue a STEM degree?
I was a naturally curious kid. I would take apart electronics and try to put them back together, which by itself isn't a bad thing, but I would take these Frankenstein boards with the exposed circuits and try to plug them into a wall outlet. And sparks would fly. Sometimes, thank goodness for circuit breakers. I almost burnt down a house a few times. I remember one time I wanted to see how mechanical clock worked. My parents kind of take apart their clock, and I put that together. It's not happening. Once that sprocket pops out,
Yeah, that's
you
rough.
can't do a thing
Right.
with that. So between my natural curiosity about how things work and inclination toward math and being pretty good at math, it was kind of obvious that I should pursue a STEM degree
Okay, and you're glad you did.
so far.
Until you take something apart and can't put it back together again, right? So that'll be tough at, $50 million a copy. So, Monique, what advice would you give to someone wanting to be an engineer or a computer scientist? What advice would you give them?
I would say don't be afraid to fail. I would say when I was finishing my chemical engineering degree, there were a lot of failures, but that toughened me up to say, hey, I made it through this, nothing's gonna stop me. And so I would have encouraged myself earlier on to not be afraid of failure, because that just means you're outside of your comfort zone, you're stretching yourself, you're expanding. And if you're too comfortable and everything is working 100% every time, then you're not expanding yourself and you're not doing what you're supposed to do to grow. And probably there's not a lot of self-reflection there. So I would definitely say, just don't be afraid to fail and go for it. And pretty much my motto at this point is, unless you give me a hard no, a very hard no, it's a yes.
Mm-hmm.
So be very firm in your no's, or so I'm gonna just kind of push through and get the job done, to secure the mission.
Okay, interesting. All right, DESHAWN, how about you?
Yeah, I think that Monique summed it up pretty well. I pretty much say the same thing, right? Don't be afraid of failure. I think that, acknowledging that there's going to be situations where you're not going to know how to do something, and that's okay, right? People are always they're afraid of being wrong, right? They're afraid of not knowing something. They're afraid of, oh, I'm in an interview and they're asking me this question, I don't know what the answer is, right? Instead of trying to fake your way through it, say, hey, I don't know. And that's perfectly valid, right? I work with people that have been doing this stuff over 40 years, and they're not afraid to say, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the best pieces of advice that I've ever been given, right? It's being unafraid of going into the unknown, right? MLK said that faith is taking the first step when you can't see the whole staircase, right? So never being afraid of going into the unknown and embracing change, right? That's the only constant in life, and that's what I try to strive for as I've been going forward.
And it is a constant, you're right. So, FARAI, how about you? What recommendation would you give to someone wanting to be an engineer or a computer scientist?
Along the same lines, don't be afraid to lean in. Just be open to opportunities. Even, if it doesn't seem like it's, just be curious. Like, oh, like hear this, and just follow it if it's, sparking your curiosity. Because I started out my journey. I started out as an aerospace engineer. I got my degree in aerospace engineering, and an opportunity came up in application engineering, and I was like, well, it sounds interesting. I live and breathe aerospace engineering in my personal life. That's what I'm always reading. That's what I'm always watching TV. I was like, okay, I'm willing to try what it's about. If not, I have time. I can always switch out. And it turned out to be the best decision I've ever made. So I'd say just always be open to opportunities.
Okay, good.
Can I ask a quick question
Sure.
to the audience? How many, people are currently in undergrad or seeking engineering degrees? Okay, or graduate school, whatever. Okay, my general recommendation to everyone here is to do some self-reflection and first identify yourself as the head of your ship. Okay, you're the CEO, CFO, you have all authority of you as a person, your strategic vision, and manifesting that and executing it. And once you kind of accept that completely, then you have all the authority to make decisions. Hey, I'm not getting this resource. Who has what I need? Who has the money? Who has the support? So I would just encourage everyone, if you're not getting what you need, whether that's academically, professionally, mentorship, support in different areas like that, go for it, stop what you're doing, and then make that change. And I think that'll help. Because a lot of times we tend to struggle silently and we don't vocalize, hey, something's wrong, I need help, or this is not optimal for me. So that's what I would kind of encourage everyone.
Good.
Can I add one more thing?
Mm-hmm.
Another piece of advice, get yourself a mentor. Get like 5 mentors.
Hey, wait a minute. That's the next question. Can't do at that. Hold on. Wait a minute.
I like that.
Yes, go ahead.
Everything she said was spot on, but I would also say, when I was coming through undergrad, grad, and finishing my doctorate, I was a bit arrogant, or what they say confident, because of my background and what I feel like to do. And just looking across the room and some of your eyes and faces, I'm pretty sure folks was thinking the same thing, like I'm top of my class, or I'm going through whatever I'm going through and I'm making it. You know, you have to walk that fine line between humility and arrogance. It's like the old saying goes, you can catch more flies with honey than vinegar. And some folks can pick up on that. Like, you know, you can think it and it can come across in facial expressions. Like, just give me what I want so I can get what I need done. But, you know, and don't be afraid to ask. I mean, someone who's got 20 years of experience as a PhD or a research fellow or whoever, or CEO, and they have a job, they have something that you want, and you're afraid to go to them because you're afraid of rejection. It could be you're intimidated. You got to persevere to just fight through that. Because at the end of the day, they're in those positions, folks are looking to be supplanted by people that they trust. So how can I trust you if you don't have the wherewithal to come to me and ask when you need help?
You're listening to Young, Gifted, and Black, a professional development seminar featuring Daniel Scott, DESHAWN Brown, FARAI CHIDEMBO, Dr. Monique FARRREL, Vincent POTEA, and Sam Williams. Brought to you by Northrop Grumman Corporation and the Global Catalyst for Change, the BAYA-STEM Global Competitiveness Conference, where we make the untapped potential possible. Be sure to check out our social media pages on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube.
It's every leader's responsibility. As a matter of fact, at Northrop, the primary objective of leaders is to make sure that you have developed a pipeline to not just replace you, but to replace your organization. There is an expectation that you will be giving people, teammates, opportunities, and their experiences will help lead them into new growth. If we're not doing that, we're not doing our job, right? So it's critical that for all of you out there, it's critical that you understand the value associated with development. Not just learning what you're learning now, but how you develop by learning more, but also getting some exposure. You have to have the learning, exposure, and you have to have on-the-job experience. So to that point, I do want to ask about challenges, right? Not that any of you have faced any challenges in the environment, let's say at work, but share one challenge that you've recently encountered and how you're working through that. What are the things that you're relying on to work through that? You're all successful, well-educated professionals, but that doesn't mean it's a challenge-less environment, right? So just share one challenge that you're facing and how you're working through it. Mr. Sam, go ahead.
I was actually having a three-pronged attack of a challenge. About 2 years ago, I was working on the F-35 center fuselage in Palmdale, and then I got the news that my mother had congestive heart failure stage 3, and she lives in Florida. So immediately I'm like, how do I, my mom is sick here, I'm working here, and I'm still in school, and I'm trying to pay my career path even forward, and I'm worried about a sick parent that I could lose at any minute. So that was a deep challenge. It rocked me to my core. What got me through it was, one, my faith. I believe everything happens for a reason, but also just, one thing my grandfather always taught me is be prepared to get comfortable being uncomfortable. All this is for a reason. So I immediately, and then with the great support from Northrop, I was able to go to my manager and also my director and say, hey, I need to transfer to Florida to be close to my mom. And it was like the next day. So, and that helped. And then and then I moved here with me. So then I was like, you know what, no more living by yourself. I monitor her day to day. She's better now, much better. She was here earlier. And I was able to complete my degree, and then here I am. So taking that load off. So again, back to my previous point, always knowing when to ask for help. And then just leaning on whatever gets you through to this point. It's something outside of your family that got you. Just keep leaning on it, and remember where you come from. Keep pushing forward.
Thank you, Sam.
You're welcome.
Right? Your thoughts?
I'd say my biggest challenge right now is there are so many opportunities to stay focused. I keep wanting to like run before I can walk, just because I'm excited, and I think I just need to slow down a little bit.
Okay. Go ahead, DESHAWN.
Yeah, I think a big one, large part of my work is working with geographically dispersed teams. So some of my team members are in Colorado. I have others in California and in Baltimore, right? So a big challenge that we often have is trying to work, with people that you can't necessarily see, right? And trying to build trust when one team member is 2 hours ahead, one team member is 2 hours behind, trying to understand how everyone works together, right? A big part of engineering that I think that some people don't realize is that communication plays a big part, right? People think that you can become an engineer and just be pen down on paper and then just try to work stuff out, right? But a big part is being able to communicate with others, right? So understanding who your team is, how you can gain their trust, and how you can work effectively, I think plays a pretty big part.
Interesting, right?
So I guess I'd like to shift a little bit. Instead of a technical challenge, it was more of not the young gifted, but it was the Black portion of it. So I had gone to get some respiratory fitting, and they were, putting the fitting over my nose and the mask and stuff like that. And so initially they recommended a medium, and then someone had come in and said, your nose is quite large. You probably need a large. And that cultural insensitivity right then and right there almost took me out. But I had to kind of process and take a step back and say, okay, well, I've worked with this individual in the past. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt here and now and kind of finish my respiratory training and things like that. And then it was after, when I got back to my desk, that's when I said, you know what, well, this individual is probably going to be doing a lot more of these kind of fittings, and maybe it's just a lack of knowledge in terms of kind of the cultural sensitivities around, naming a body part and calling it a specific size, right? And so I just kind of sent him a quick IM, and I said, I hope you received this feedback, and I just want to encourage you to kind of keep doing what you're doing. We appreciate you trying to get employee safety numbers high. And he was very responsive to it, and we were able to move past it. But for a second, that part right there, I was just like, well, geez,
Yeah,
is this real? So yeah, I just encourage people to get to know the people around you so that you can kind of make those split-second decisions of just, bring it back, find another way at a more appropriate time to kind of communicate the issues, and then kind of just bring everybody forward together, collectively.
Good. You have to lead from the front, right?
Yeah.
So profiles encourage, as I mentioned earlier today. So Vincent, how about you?
One of the challenges I face is trying to get information from people. Everybody at work is busy. They all have their number of priorities, which may not be my priority. So if I send an email to somebody needing some information, some data, they may not get to it because to them, that's not their priority. They don't see the need for that. And so that often leads me to knocking on doors to get an answer, because once I'm in your face, it's kind of hard to tell me I can't give you the information, I can't give you that data. So the challenge of making sure what my priority is actually a priority and it gets done. So their holdups or their lack of help on their end is not holding up my task.
So it's interesting, right? So we have personal aspects, there are some technical challenges, there are some maybe collaboration issues, there are some unconscious bias issues, and then the engagement part, right? So if each of you had a mentor and you had shared those challenges with a mentor, it may give you different perspectives on how to respond, right? So next question is around mentorship, all right? So I'll ask, let's start with Sam from the end. Number one, do you have a mentor? And if you do, has your mentor given you any kind of advice that you have found impactful that you can share, right? So don't always have to share everything, right? Have they given you any kind of information that's impactful? And how did you acquire that mentor, right?
Yes, I actually have two mentors.
Okay.
One within Northrop and one outside of Northrop I've had for 10 years when I was matriculating through undergrad. And they kind of resonate the same message. Just, you are very talented, you have a wealth of knowledge, you come from a healthy background, and the fact is you know all of this and you're still humble and hungry to learn more. Like that's the thing that just impresses them like so much.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why are you going for this degree? Why are you going for this cert?
Mm-hmm.
Why are you taking on a job that you know it's going to be difficult, but you want to do it anyway? And it's like, I tell them because I'm hungry.
Yeah.
Like, I know I can't learn it all, but if I can learn enough to make myself, you know, a better engineer and therefore a better person in society, why not?
Okay.
They both resonate that same message.
Any blind spots they're sharing with you and talking about that?
No, they keep it
No?
candid.
Okay.
And of course, both of them are high upper echelons in their fields, and they're both African American men. So they tell me that the struggles they've gone through as far as, you know, cultural insensitivity
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
even blatant racism.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and they just tell me like, look, you're going to face it.
Right.
And then just don't look at it as that's the entire culture of where it's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
It's just one person being ignorant,
Right.
or the system being ignorant, you know, and also think of it as fear too, like because they fear where you're going,
Right.
what you're trying to become. So it's, you know, I take it with a grain of salt. And you can't stop it, you know, I can stop it. So
Right. You keep moving. Right? Okay. FARAI, how about you? The mentor question.
As you saw earlier, I'm very excited about mentors. I have like 4 mentors. I think it's pretty important because when you graduate college, you know, you have the education and you have the job, but sometimes you need help just navigating the corporate world. So I would say pick different mentors for different, you know.
Okay. All right. Great. DESHAWN?
I agree. Mentors are very important. I also have a couple of mentors. One of my main mentors within Northrop is a staff engineer on my research project. He actually became a mentor. He was the one that interviewed me to actually get my job within the company several years ago.
Oh, okay.
And he was very impressed with me during the interview. And then I asked him if he could be my mentor. He had a lot of life experience. We could relate with music, which was pretty big. So, you know, finding someone that you can relate to, I think, is very important, right? Someone that has a lot of life experience and can help you with the situations that you aren't necessarily prepared for, right? Because when you're in the corporate world, you learn that there's situations that school can't prepare you for, right? So it's good to be able to go to someone for guidance and say, hey, I'm in this very complicated situation. And I'm not sure what to do. You know, can you give me some guidance? And they're more than happy to do so. And it's definitely helped me get to where I am today. You know, I'm still early career, but I regularly go to them for guidance, and it's been very helpful.
Okay. Excellent. Monique, what do you run mentoring?
I love my mentors. They're great. I have several mentors. I probably can't even count. And I think it's because I understand that different levels of engagement are okay at different levels of my life. So, or different phases of my life, I should say. So my very first research experience for undergraduate was in 2011, I believe. And so I definitely still consider that advisor as a mentor. I check in probably every, maybe twice a year, and that's enough for that particular phase. And I check in and I ask him how he's doing. He asks me how I'm doing. Now I have other mentors where I'm on the phone with them every day.
Right.
And I'm checking in saying, they're at work. And we work technically together. So I think it all depends on what the need is at that time and, to leverage your resources and for them to leverage you as well. So I have tons of mentors, but not all of them I speak to every day.
Right.
And I think that works really well.
Okay. Good. Vince, how about you?
I do
Mentors.
mentor. I was lucky to find my mentor in unconventional way. I sat outside his office, and he told me I was in a volunteer role, and I have to volunteer for events on campus. I'm like, dude, it's crazy. I got too much stuff to do to be volunteering for events. I just started the company, and I'm trying to learn how to be a sales engineer. But between that casual relationship and volunteering with this guy, we become to know each other on a personal level. And he became active in my personal career. He took a role in growing my task and meeting people I wouldn't have met beforehand, or growing my exposure, my network. So I think mentors are very important. Luckily, within Northrop, we have several programs to help find mentors, like mentoring a technical professional, which pairs you with a technical professional with mentor your career. But besides that, I think that you can go to any academic advisors or somebody having their career and ask for any help, and they should be able to help you guide your career path.
Okay, good. Mentorship is critical, and I think folks that are still in school, as you share your experiences with academic advisors or so other people within that same realm, that's critical. That's a form of mentoring. For those professionally, you reach out to some peers or maybe some folks that are in a different discipline than you are, or maybe at a different level than you are. All of those things are important. Mentorship also is important to point out, as I mentioned earlier, your blind spots, right? So there are areas that you do well in, and there's some areas that you may need some work in, right? We call those opportunities, right? Strengths and opportunities. I have mentors within the company, and I've been with the company a long time and senior in the company, but there are areas that I need to strengthen. And so I look to other senior officers in the company to help me understand where those areas are, because they can see how I operate. We all work together. We share opinions about things, and sometimes if I say it's supposed to go this way, they'll say, no, Dan, maybe more input is needed, right? That's kind of a blind spot. So all those things are really critical, and a mentor can give you insight into different aspects. It could be personal, it could be professional, but it's all really important. So get a mentor and appreciate the relationship. So I have one question for FARAI. What do you do outside of Northrop Grumman?
I'm always trying new things. I love to travel. If I could travel like half the year or half the year, I would. But unfortunately,
Not sure how that works.
and I train. I like to try new things just to keep growing outside of academics and work. So I recently, about a year ago, started training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Highly recommend. It actually turns out to not be as much physical as mental. So if you want to step your mental game up, I highly. Anyways, and I like to ride my motorcycle. I like to go to the beach. I live by the beach, so I run and just hang out on the beach. Fresh air. It's a must.
Okay, excellent. So we need to keep FARAI inside the building. So as we let her out, she's going to be all over the world. Yeah, I know. Well, not here. I spent a number of years in California working in Redondo Beach, and so the company convinced me that I should move back to the East Coast. My wife grew up in California, so I convinced her to come out here. We went through 2 winters, and she says, okay, so what's the plan? So we're executing the plan. So I know that we have to get to wrap. Did I get the wrap up signed some time ago? Did I? All right. Well, we will comply. I have one closing question for each one of you panel members, and it's a topical question, but it's what advice would you share with our audience members to inspire them to continue on their journey, whatever journey they're on? What would you advise them to inspire them to continue on their journey? Vince, let's start with you.
Don't be afraid to fail, and don't be afraid to ask for help. We all fail. We all gonna fail. If you haven't failed yet, you probably will soon. And no man's an island. We all need help getting anything done. And so don't be afraid to reach out and ask for any kind of help that you may need, be professional or personal. And just make sure that people are going to look out for your best interest, and so keep that in mind when reaching out for any kind of help or assistance you may need.
Good. Don't be afraid to fail. Monique?
So what would I recommend to be inspired or stay
To inspire them to continue on their journey, the journey that they're on now. And I know you don't know everybody out here, but
I would say do a self-check and verify if the journey that you're on is the one you want. When I felt less than motivated at times, it was because something internal had switched directions and I didn't consciously realize it. So I would say stop, take a breath. Is the current path or direction that you're on one that you actually want now and not something that you had thought of, last week or last year? And then also to separate external successes versus internal successes. What's important to you versus what's important to society or what you may think you may need to do to be successful. I'd like to say, figure out what makes you satisfied, and that should encourage you to keep going if it's satisfying you truly.
Okay, excellent. DESHAWN?
I think one big thing for me is understanding that the journey that you're on, you're not on it alone, right? There's always support systems out there. I know especially for school, it's very easy to get discouraged and you're doing homework that feels impossible, but every year you somehow make it, right? So you show yourself that you did the impossible, right? And I think that's what kept me going, understanding that everyone else in my class was going through the same thing and we all survived, right? I think that's something that's very important to keep in mind, right? You've made it this far, so just keep going.
Right. You will survive. Okay, FARAI?
Yeah, about the same message. Just hang in there. If you put in any work at all, I promise you there's a reward at the end. So sometimes it feels like you're stuck or discouraged. Just hang in there. Promise you will get a reward at the end.
Excellent. Sam?
Well, yeah, all the panelists are spitting the same message. I would just say the same thing my mother told me. The tortoise won the race, not the hare. So whatever you're going through, whether it's a professor that doesn't want to let you out, financial insecurities or things, but just problems, family issues, anything. Rainy days only last for so long. Eventually, the sun will come out again. But you don't want to stop under that storm cloud, do you? One foot in front of the other. You'll get there. Trust me. It's good. I'm enjoying it. How about you guys?
That's right. The journey's not over yet either, right? And so I think everybody should just know that I'll have one parting remark before we open up to Q&A. Part of the challenge that you'll find professionally is that you're never 100% ready for a next role. This goes to the comment about challenges and how you overcome them. Right now, for those of you in school and for those of you professionally looking at those next levels, it's almost an ideal state where you're absolutely ready for the next thing. Leaders in your company or even in your professors in your school aren't looking for you to know absolutely everything today. They know that you're on a curve and they will constantly challenge you. Professionally, inside a company, we're looking for people to have stretch goals or stretch opportunities, and we'll put them in an assignment where we know they'll have to learn and do at the same time. So we're not looking for someone who's 100% ready for a job, because we need to see how you manage the stress, how you manage the challenge, and how you lead inside that space. So very important, journey's not done. It's never completely done, okay? We're gonna open it up now to a Q&A from anybody here on the floor that would like to share a comment or have a question. I would ask, once again, that you go to the mic. So if we can clear a path to the mic in 4 different directions to make sure the folks can get there. It's a wireless mic. Go ahead, yes, ma'am.
Hello, everyone. I am Natasha Jugger of Melbourne, Florida. I work at Northrop Grumman Corporation. The question I have for you guys, and as well as something that I need advice on is, so the title of this panel is Young, Gifted, and Black. And so all of us in this room, or all of us, we have some component of those 3 things. And all 3 of those things bring value. They bring value to the family that we're in, the schools that we attend, and the jobs that we choose to enter. My question to you is, when you're having those conversations about, okay, this is who I am, this is what I bring to the table, this is how I can leverage my skill set, how do you begin to have those seemingly tough conversations in terms of knowing your worth and your value? And I know that, you can't, we're not gonna always get what we want when we first go into a job in terms of compensation and worth and value, but what advice, and one of the things that I struggled with when I first came to Grumman was not having those mentors or people in place that could say, hey, okay, this is good. All right, take this. Okay, maybe have those conversations and kind of leveraging your skill set. What advice would you give?
Okay. Who would like to? Monique?
Great question. I would say have the conversation with yourself first. And I think it begins with convincing yourself that you are ready and you do have the skills. So what I like to do before I have any discussions with my management about performance, self-assessment, is to look at the next level of leveling criteria. And I do bullet points for myself. Okay, they want someone who's a technical leader. Do I have examples of that? Check, check. They want someone who's innovative, who can mentor, things of that nature. And if you write it all down, you'll start to realize, hey, I have a lot of the qualities and the desired characteristics that they want. I am ready for this. And the one area that I don't have, I already have a strategy to bridge that gap. So I think if you have that conversation with yourself, lock yourself in a room, get some pen and paper, or type it if you prefer that. Just go through it, and I think you'll realize that you have a lot of what they're already looking for, if not more.
Okay, thank you, Sam.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on what Monique said, at the end, on point, not Monique.
Yeah.
You want to do your best at all times, and also want to get a champion, like someone like a senior engineer or someone who's the actual project sponsor, whomever, who's dialed into monitoring the progress of whatever project, whatever you're doing, and then they can speak up for you, so that when you have that self-check, you can walk into any conversation and say, well, I do this, this, and this, and here's my reference that can back that up. Or better yet, if you've done a better job than what you assumed, they are going to call in for you and say something else. It's happened to me several times. Like, I'm like, wow, the CEO's calling for me. Wow, cool.
So it's important, right? A strategy to bridge the gap is critical. And that's a conversation that doesn't begin and end in one session, right? You have that conversation leading up to targeting opportunities. Okay, yes, sir.
Hi, everyone. This is for DESHAWN. I also work in the IRAD world. So my question for you is, do you ever solve a problem and it's basically you need to stop yourself because it's good enough for the program that you're working on, but then you could keep going on that problem and solve it for the next program that hasn't even happened yet? So like when you're solving problems in the IRAD world, like how do you, I guess, stop yourself, or do you also put in like an extra hour a week or a day to build up the tools that you need to solve the problems, not just for the program that you're currently working on, but for the problems you're going to need for the next program?
Good question. So something that I always try to do is, try to understand if there's other business divisions that can benefit from the work that I'm doing, right? So I think getting connected at the corporate level, if you're working in a larger company or a larger corporation, right? Understanding, okay, here's what other sectors in the company are doing, and here's how they could benefit, and then finding a champion within your sector or your division that can vouch for you and say, hey, here's a good idea, and here's the impact that can have at a broader level. And that's something that we've tried to do on my research project, right? So something that we develop can be seemingly very specialized, but then going to a VP or someone like that and saying, hey, we can use this, and here's why it's beneficial, right? I think what people like to see are, okay, here's bullet points of how this can help, at a broader level. And then once you get that buy-in, I think that it all just, everything else follows.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Sierra Mitchell, and I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. And unlike most of the people here, I'm actually a junior in high school, and I'm an entrepreneur.
Oh.
And I was just wondering, is there anything that you guys did in high school, or anything that you guys were exposed to that led you guys to be here? And do you have any advice to kind of bridging kind of customer college?
You guys remember that far back? Hey?
It's taking me a minute.
Really? Okay.
I know in high school I was involved in a lot of activities, extracurricular activities that help promote STEMs. So, I mean, I did electronics clubs, which helped me refine that love of electronics that helped me eventually get into college that had an electronics program. So I think just honing your extracurricular activities in a field that you think you may want to go into would be helpful in bridging that gap between high school and college.
Mm-hmm. Good point. Anybody else?
I graduated from used to be one of the 10 high schools that taught aviation, maintenance, and flight training to high school students, but you have to meet a certain criteria. And I graduated with a pilot's license before I had a driver's license. So again, to Vincent's point, just find out what your passion is. And I also did all 4 years in the Air Force ROTC. I wish it was the Navy, but hey, my dad got over that. So I mean, again, just find out what your passion is, and just you want to build yourself with a holistic view of yourself, because that's when you apply to colleges. That's what they want to see. They don't want to see just a 4.0. They want to know all of you. What are you into? What have you done while maintaining those grades? You'll be a better shot. You're welcome.
Okay, great.
I'm Rashad. I'm a propulsion design engineer at Boeing. I've been working there for about 3.5 years.
Okay.
And my question is kind of related to Dr. Williams. So in school, I used to doing well, so I never really had like a super big failure. So when I got to Boeing and I had my first big design review after working on the design for months, I get in front of 10 engineers and they rip me apart. And to be honest, like I took it personally at first, so I was like, am I a bad design engineer? But I didn't realize that the design process is like iterative. So it's very rare for a designer to check all the boxes on the first time. So what's some of the ways you came across to like deal with not taking that criticism personally and like I mean I've gotten better with it over time, but I can't say that I don't take it.
Right.
Still a work in progress.
Well, I would say when I would go through a situation like that, and it's happened plenty of times, first thing to do is go to my pastime, like go to my gym, hit the bag, get that frustration off and kind of reset your brain. And then sit down and look at, the actual process and what the checklist, what did you do in accordance to what you were told to do? And while you're doing that, you'll be surprised how many times you can say, hey, I could have done this differently or better. And even the company may not have thought about this. So that gives you an opportunity to revamp your process and improve yourself. And also you can sell something to the company and make their processes better. So that's how I would handle situations like that. You're always gonna take it personal, especially if you're a man of pride and a man of your work. But at the end of the day, not everyone is you. Not everyone thinks like you. So you got to remember that and just say, you know what, let me take a step back because I know I'm good. Otherwise, why would they hire me? I'm here for a reason. So just, it's all right, but you got it.
I think you hit the nail on the head too. Said the process is iterative. So I mean, there's going to be many different revisions of the process. Like you've seen drawings for that, revision A, B, C, D, E. Because the first time's not the correct one, right?
That's right.
And that's going to be a process going forward. Like your first time will not be the correct one. I had a C engineer. I had to write a document for SIMP, a program I had never done before. SIMP is a system engineering management plan, and I was sweating over it. Like, I don't know what this is. Like, I can't do this. And I told him, I'm worried about this document. He's like, no, Vince, it's not going to be right, no matter how long you spend on it. Get it out, we'll read it, review it, and you do another revision, and we'll get it till it's right. And ever since then, I came in that mindset, no, I'm going to do my best job the first time, and then if it's not right, we'll revert it. We'll work it again until it's correct, and that's been my story so far. It's worked pretty well.
I agree. For some of the new emerging technologies, we're on revision Y. We're trying to see if we're going to make it to Z. And then also, I'd like to say, sometimes it's not the person, it's the process. So is there anything that you can incorporate, maybe some design rules that for the next, engineer or designer can assist in kind of averting some of these problems? So I would look at the process as a whole, remove the person, and see if you can optimize it that way.
Very important. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
My name is Jaylee Easter. I'm a freshman at the University of Maryland Eastern Shore.
Okay.
I have had the opportunity to conduct research on campus into nanofabrication and actually microelectronics. And I've found that the expectation with that is conducting research at the undergraduate level, you're sort of expected to continue it into graduate school to get a graduate degree. So my question is more so for Sam, but I guess it can be answered by any of you guys. How did you know that the path to your degree was the right fit for you? Like first going into the industry and then getting your PhD, how did you decide to do that instead of going straight through and then joining the industry?
Okay, well, my path was kind of unique because Bill Gates, I was one of the Bill Gates Millennium Scholars, so like all my education was paid for. And it was, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like I'm, undergrad, graduate degrees, I'm working on the theoretical, I need to get some practical hands-on with what I'm learning. And, just like what Sean said, like what I thought I wasn't gonna see, like if anyone in mechanical engineering, when they do design machine elements, trust me, you're not gonna forget that, and it's annoying. So then I was like, okay, now I got the practical hands-on. Bill Gates hit me and said, hey, you want to use the rest of his money or no? Well, who's gonna turn down Bill Gates? Like, come on. So then I just continued on, and then just having that industry experience, knowing that it's not all about just the product itself, it's the holistic system. That's where systems engineering kicked in, and then I said, hey, let me find a degree where I can just dive in and really learn and hone my skills that way, and then everything just kind of meshed together. So how did I know that? Right place, right time. Again, doing a self-check, like Monique has been preaching this entire time. I would listen. Always do a self-check and make sure you're passionate about what you're doing. Because the worst thing you want to do is sit 80 hours every 2 weeks on something you don't enjoy. Trust me, you want to hurt yourself, but don't do that. I hope I answered your question.
You did, thank you.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
One last question, I think we have.
Oh, awesome. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Jabril Muhammad, Naval Surface Warfare Center, Philadelphia Division, civilian engineer.
Great.
A lot of times as an entry-level employee, when you come in, you may not be getting the projects you think you should. You may have lulls in your workday plan and things like that. Have you ever encountered, and can you speak to the importance of filling in the gaps? What I mean is one of the, a manager, not of mine, but a adjacent division, said sometimes you do have those lulls, but the ability for you to see a need and fill it, whether it's some spreadsheet you've created or something that you've advanced a process. Have you had that experience, and what's the value in doing so when it comes up?
I'd say you gotta look for them. So what I used to do, if it was an open door meeting, I would just pop in and see what's going on, what people are talking about, if they're having issues, and I would just listen to what's going on. And then sometimes they will begin to administer the action items. And if there was one that I could take, if it was just following up with, an engineer about a concept that I didn't know much about, but I could at least get the response and then funnel it back, then I would take that action item. So I think you just gotta go for it and just ask, is there any way that I can be of use? A lot of times there are external funds for continuous improvement. For me, it's for the fab area or integration, and you can offer your assistance there. You don't always have to be a lead on the initiative, but you can have a supporting role until you feel confident enough to take it over.
Great. Sure.
Also, it may seem like a lot more work on yourself, taking care of your responsibilities and also looking for other stuff, but think of it as going above and beyond the call of duty is your time to shine. Because it sets you apart from everyone else who's not doing. They're not doing that for a reason. It might be undoable, but nothing's undoable, just improbable. So if you defeat that mindset, you'll be much more successful, in my opinion.
Excellent, thank you. And so I think we're going to wrap up here because I've gotten the red card at least 3 times by now, and folks have come in from the outside. There it is again. I want to thank the panelists here, DESHAWN Brown, FARAI CHIDEMBO, Dr. Monique FARRREL, Vince POTEA, and Sam Williams for joining us here this afternoon. Appreciate all of you for coming in and sharing your perspectives as well. I hope you learned something. I hope you're inspired by what you've heard. Uh-oh, there's the music. It's just like in the Emmys, right? So we appreciate everything and have a great day.
Thank you for listening to Young, Gifted, and Black, a professional development seminar presented by Northrop Grumman Corporation, featuring Sector Vice President of Enterprise Services and Chief Information Officer, Daniel Scott, Systems Engineer, Mission Systems Sector, DESHAWN Brown, Cyber Systems Engineer, Aeronautics Sector, FARAI CHIDEMBO, Materials Process Engineer, Mission Systems Sector, Dr. Monique Farrell, Systems Engineer, Mission Systems Sector, Vincent POTEA, and Mechanical Engineer, Aeronautics Systems, Sam Williams. If you have enjoyed this presentation, be sure to attend the BEA STEM Global Competitiveness Conference. For more information on how you, your company, or organization can take part, visit www.bea.org. For college students, contact us at 410-244-7101.